Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good morning if you happen to be in the United States of America, good afternoon if you happen to be in Europe, and if you're in Korea, what the hell are you doing awake? My name is TotalBiscuit, and I'll be bringing you this match of the Acer Teamstory Cup between Complexity and Team Mousesports. Shaking off the rust right here with a little bit of a solo cast. It's going to be opening up with two fantastic Terran players, and I'm hoping you have about as much fun as I do, approximately, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Star Station. It's my pleasure to bring you Mousesports Luciferon. He is in the red trunks and he is playing Terran. Yes, he is, to the southeast of the Star Station, versus his opponent in the cross position, which is, of course, the only way you can spawn on Star Station anymore, assuming that you ever use Star Station in your map pool anymore. It is Complexity's the STC, in the blue trunks, also playing Terran. Now, I gotta say, the STC is a bit of a monster. When it comes to team leagues, he really, really is. If you want an example, he 4-killed Axiom. He also lives in the house with Axiom, which doesn't help because he knows all of our builds. But whatever the case, he 4-killed Axiom, which is very, very impressive indeed. And he has been putting up some phenomenal results in the team league. He hasn't really been focusing too much on anything else since he was eliminated from WCS Premier Division. However, he's been able to put up some really, really good team league results, which is very impressive. Lucifer, on the other hand, once a monster, not quite as scary now. Still scary, don't get me wrong. Still capable of taking games, especially in a team series where it's best of one from the best in the world. But nowhere near as dominant as he used to be. His brother Vortex seems to be doing a lot better. So, we will see. This, I think, is going to be a fairly evenly matched TVT between these two. Lucifer is going to start up with a gasless opening here, and his opponent goes for the 12-12, which is reasonably indicative that he wants to go for a Reaper. That said, he is mining gas a hell of a lot earlier, so actually that wasn't a 12-12, was it? That was a gas first. That barracks should have been finished by now, if that was a 12-12. So, that's a little bit unusual. Gas first. So we might see a Banshee opening from him. There's a couple of possibilities. It could be an early Hellion opening. Cloaked Banshee openings have got way more popular since the cost of those things was cut in half. Marine going to come out right here. And just, if you look at how much he's actually got on there. Lucifer, of course, knows there's a factory coming down. He was able to scout that immediately. And SDC also knew that he would have been able to scout the factory because it is cross-position only on this map. He didn't wall off. So, he let him do it. The question is, what does he decide to do behind that? This Marine's going to come out and eventually push this SCV away. Now, Lucifer does not know whether this is a factory to go straight into a starport, which it very well could be. There are no SCVs out on the map for the STC, so we're not going to see any kind of proxy Banshee nonsense. Or it could be a factory for Hellions. But if it was for Hellions, we would have seen a reactor coming out on this barracks pretty much immediately for the swap over to go straight into Reactor Hellion. But that's not what we're seeing. So, very likely we'll see a Banshee opening here. There you go. Now, you might wonder, of course, you know, why would he go Banshee opening? Well, for one thing, it's very, very good, especially if you happen to back it up. The only other thing it could be is kind of an early elevator play. That's also a possibility. I don't necessarily want to tell you, hey, it's a Banshee opening guaranteed. It's likely to be, especially with this tech lab now coming down here for the swap over, but it could be an elevator play with a medevac. It's unlikely, though. Yeah, this is a TBT build that a lot of the guys in the Axiom houses have been using. So if STC has been practicing with Ryong, has been practicing with Hart particularly, who uses this opening a lot, then it's quite likely that he will be using a very similar build. It's slightly accelerated based on some of the other Banshee builds that I've seen. It may not even be with Cloak. And as you can see, he has so little gas that it looks like it's not going to be. So, for the moment, it's going to be an uncloaked Banshee. It's going to be, for the most part, a little bit of frontal pressure. And SDC is going to lose that Hellion almost immediately. That was not good at all, actually. Not a great start for him. Didn't need to lose that Hellion. He took an unnecessary risk. I think he thought maybe, just maybe, he could have got up the ramp. And as a result, he ran up there. Lucifer was waiting for him, ambushed him immediately. And this is actually a Banshee expand here, as you can see. STC is going to put a command center behind it. Cloak is not forthcoming from the STC. And there's a reactor coming down here, so it's likely that we will not see Cloak at all in this game. We might see it later on. That's a possibility. Every now and again, there's a transition into Cloak when it's unexpected, but STC getting the slightly better end of that engagement there. Starport coming up with the Viking immediately. So this is going to shut down this Banshee pretty effectively. Obviously, Lucifron has figured out what it is based on the number of Hellions that he saw and the number of Marines. And STC is actually getting super greedy behind this. He's getting a second command center immediately. Only a single Banshee out in the field here. He is going to get Cloak, but it's going to be very, very late. So he needs to be a little bit careful. Lucifron could have determined, based on the fact that there weren't enough Hellions on the field, that this was not, in fact, some kind of Reactor Hellion early play or Blue Flame or anything like that. Out comes the Viking, and that's going to drive the Banshee away. Vikings move slightly slower than Banshees, so it will be able to escape. Good engagement there for Lucifron to catch a couple of Hellions out and get the better end of that. But those can be repaired, so it's not too shabby. And Cloak will be coming in. And Lucifron knows that this is a possibility, so he's bringing in a Raven to deal with that as well. The funny thing about this is that what STC has done is he's feigned a lot of early aggression, and that's exactly not what he was doing. He wanted to double expand behind it and get incredibly greedy. And right now, Lucifron does not have an army of any sort on the field that could actually push. Not one. There is drop potential. That's what I will say. After the Raven, we might see a medevac, and then we may see a drop into the main or the natural. And the forces of STC are even more limited. There's really only that Banshee kind of hanging around, and it's being driven away. It's managed to get away from the Viking. Cloak is done. Lucifron's going to get his own Cloak here as well. So he wants to use Cloak Banshee at some point. But the Raven's in play. So if Lucifron stays on top of that with the Viking, then he will be able to get rid of it. There are no turrets up, so... Oh, STC taking a lot of damage there. Nice little bit of defense from Lucifron, getting a lot of bullets into that Banshee, and the Raven's going to continue to accompany that. There's really no way that this Banshee, I think, is going to do any more damage. However, that was not the plan. He wanted to draw his opponent away and get a good shot off and take out a couple of workers, and I do mean only a couple. Didn't do a huge amount of damage. He didn't clean this out. There were at least enough Hellions there. But honestly, I think STC could have gone in there and killed the Hellions. Those Hellions were badly damaged. His less so. And there are more of them for STC. So maybe he's being a little bit overly cautious there. But you can certainly understand. If he lost his entire standing army, this greed behind it would be a great risk. So his priority right now is to softly contain his opponent and make sure that his greed doesn't go unpunished. There's still no extra command center here from Lucifron, so the STC is going to take an economic lead pretty damn soon if he hasn't taken one already, and he has by about 4 SCVs, and of course an extra meal on top of that. His Banshee gets a few more kills, which is always nice, and that's 8 workers killed now. Very, very effective. There's a couple taken out in the natural there by the Hellions, so this Banshee, despite the fact that it really shouldn't have been effective, it was, and that's quite surprising. And this Raven's been hanging around with the Viking. You'd think that would be enough, but it looks like STC managed to slip it into a gap there. In comes the Banshee to help with this, and the STC getting the better end of this engagement as well. Only slightly, still taking a lot of damage. Oh, that was not a good idea. STC comes in at a reasonably bad angle and takes a couple of really good shots there, and Lucifron now has the Hellion lead. In my opinion, we have to see STC back off now and go into a defensive posture. Lucifron now moving across the map with the Banshee. The third base is up. There are no turrets to speak of, and there is no Raven. This could do a lot of damage. Scans are currently not available. Right, there's one that's just popped in. Did it just get used? Did he just burn that? Oh, that was a mistake. This is going to be a lot of damage cut out here from Lucifron. This Cloak is going to be up for another 25 seconds. He can stop the building of the missile turret forever. Oh, man, this was a mistake by the STC. Should not have used that scan there. Should have held it. But even then, got to bear in mind, STC doesn't have much on the ground. He only has a Viking. Just one Viking, which is not enough to kill out. He's going to lose at least half his natural here. And that is a lot of kills. He's already equalized it up really nicely. 12 kills on that Banshee. Very effective play there by Lucifron. He will lose the Banshee, but that's absolutely fine. And that has actually put Lucifron in a pretty decent spot. Lucifron still does not know about the third, and he hasn't scouted the main base, so he doesn't see the number of production facilities being reduced. But I think he smells it, considering he saw a very limited amount of resistance at the natural there. So he will try to get aggressive. However, in the meantime, the STC has established a series of tanks, and he's also got a couple of Banshees and a Viking out. So attacking this base could be a little bit difficult. You could go for the run-by into this base and go straight into the mineral line, but it wouldn't do much. There's only a few SCVs there, so that really doesn't make a huge amount of difference. So economically, the STC is still in a pretty good spot with that extra command center. And in comes the Banshee, tries to take out a tank. It doesn't work. Lots of Vikings now out in the field, so Banshee play is going to be rendered pretty damn ineffective. And of course, if the tank wars begin, then this Viking count for the STC is going to be very useful. It'll allow him to maintain that air superiority. Blue Flame Hellion on the way here for Lucifron, considering he's sitting on 16 Hellions. That's a really great amount. Ooh, STC already has it, though. And he's going to get... STC could have maybe got the better end of that trade, but He took a couple more shots than he needed to there, so that didn't happen. Now the tank's moving out, so we've got mech on mech coming in, and those Hellions just get absolutely obliterated. The STC has more tanks available, but he's not targeting them down very well. He's not focusing fire, and as a result, he lost a couple more tanks, and he's going to lose all of them. So Lucifron is probably pretty happy with that, honestly. He takes a supply deficit, which is not great, but he did kill 4 tanks, which is not that bad, and he also got out with a few of his own tanks. So I think the STC could have done a better job there. He was fighting the Vikings instead of targeting the tanks down immediately, which were the far higher damage units. So I think he could have saved a tank or two. Now STC coming in with the counter-aggression. And those missile turrets are going to be too little too late. A couple of Banshees in there as well are going to absolutely destroy that. And he may be able to take a toll on tanks. If he's quick enough, he can take out this missile turret. But it looks like he's not going to be quick enough to do that. So he's going to move in. He's still got tanks here that he can shoot. And scan goes down. Not enough Marines. If STC target fires this down, these tanks are going to be absolute fish food. And one's going down here as well. So this is getting messy. In come some Hellions as well. Vikings come in to land. And the Viking superiority in the hands of the STC. Wow, these Banshees going to work. In the meantime, a Blue Flame Hellion run by doing significant economic damage here. This entire mineral line looks like it's going to go down. A couple of tanks come in to save it, so maybe some of it will survive. These Banshees have done work. Wow. So much damage on both sides. Lucifron GG's. And the STC takes the first in this best of 9 series. Wow, that was action all the way through. We had mech on mech there and plenty of Banshee play. And I gotta say, the Koreans are pretty damn good at their Banshee play these days, and it seems like the Europeans do need to catch up just a little bit. Lucifron played really well, but I feel that early advantage from the 3rd CC, which went unpunished, put the STC in a position where really he couldn't lose without making massive mistakes. And the engagements in the center of the map were not too great for him. They weren't ideal, but they were good enough. So there you go. One on the board there for the STC. Lucifron quickly going down. So Mousesports has a number of different options. We could see Vortex coming out, but it would be a little bit early for that, I think. I would expect one of the stronger Protoss players to come out here from Mousesports. We'll see if that happens after this short break. Alright, we are back with the Acer Teamstory Cup, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience. Just had to put the delay on, of course, because we are in an online tournament. We wouldn't want any doubt about the results whatsoever. That would be terrible. And here we go. So, as I suspected, they're bringing a Protoss player out to face the STC. He is in the blue trunks, and he is playing Terran to the southwest of this map, which is, of course, Yonsu, versus his opponent to the northeast position. In the red trunks, playing Protoss, it is Mousesports Mana. A great start from the STC, really good TBT action going on there between both players, actually, but the STC getting the better end of it. Mana, historically known as pretty much a PvT god when it came to this matchup. He's still pretty good at it. I've got to admit, Yonsu not an ideal map for his macro TBT style, in my opinion, and it's mostly because of this. This expansion is a nightmare for Protoss versus Terran, simply because tanks! Tanks! You can put tanks right here, and you can, in fact, this mineral line is actually in range of Marines standing here, which is really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I've actually seen our Protoss player, Alicia, be destroyed by that. It's really unfortunate and very, very dangerous. So you've got to watch out for that. And a lot of Protoss players have elected to start taking this as the expansion instead. So if you want to take your 3rd, you kind of take this. But if you take your 4th, you don't want to be spread out this far. So you want to take this one, but this one then ends up being under pressure, which is not so good. Not great. Alright, Scout coming out from Mana here. It goes with a gateway expansion here. Very, very standard. Nothing out of the ordinary. And we're seeing a barracks at the front. STC with a little bit later gas. We'll probably see a Reaper opening here. I think, honestly, that's the safest thing he can do. He can have a look around the map very speedily, and he will be able to scout his opponent's base. So if there is any nonsense coming out, which is highly unlikely from Mana, I almost never, I really almost never see any sort of nonsense coming out from him. I'm just noticing some stuttering, by the way. Do let me know if there's any stuttering on the stream, because my preview window is showing that this is not running at 60 and there's all the stuttering going on. Please do let me know if that's actually the case. It may just be the preview window. Anyway, barracks coming out, and it will, of course, have that Reaper, so scouting action will be going on, as you can expect. Cybercore coming down for Mana. He took 2 gas, but he's actually only got... there we go. No? He's still only got 3 probes in potentially 6 gas spots, that's unusually low. Usually you'll see Protoss go for 4. It may be a mistake or it may be a deliberate part of this build. Bear in mind, of course, it's a very macro-focused Protoss, so getting early gas for him is unlikely. Now, of course, everyone knows Mana, I think, from yesterday's game against Firecake, which went on for 3 hours. Thankfully, this is not against Zerg, so it is unlikely to happen. This Reaper's going to have a little bit of fun here, a couple of shots going off, and it's going to have a limited time in the base because there's a Chrono Boosted Stalker coming out, and he will be able to scout. He didn't scout at the back there, which is a little unusual. Didn't scout the gas or anything like that. I feel that he could have done a little bit more than that. I think he was scared of losing the Reaper to the Stalker that came out, and of course the Stalker is now out, so STC is going to have to loop with that. Bunker going down, and this probe is doing great harass, actually. It has delayed the command center, and it's actually going to kill almost killed the second probe in the interception there. So this is a really good delay. This command center has been delayed by a good 15 seconds. You can't really complain about that. Nice little bit of probe harass. In the meantime, the Reaper makes its way in once again, and now is going to be able to scout gas in the back of the base. Mana is actually not going to be able to kill it, which, I mean, I thought, honestly, that the Reaper would have gone around the side and then would have seen an interception, but that didn't actually happen. So, there you go. Alright. Mana now pulling back and the expansion coming in, and now he chooses his tech, now that he's driven the Reaper away. And it's going to be a Robo. You should not be remotely surprised by this with Mana. Absolutely not. Very, very safe. Incredibly so. One gateway into Robo, into Observer. Doesn't really need an Immortal at this stage of the game. It's only 2 barracks here from the STC so far, playing pretty defensively. The STC doesn't really have any tech. It's getting a Marauder or 2. So there's a couple of reasons to do this, especially lately we're seeing a lot of Protoss go for early Blink Stalker aggression. So it's quite nice to have a Marauder or 2 out. The second possibility is that the STC may attempt to poke. He could go for an early 2-rack stim timing. I'm noticing a lot of stutters here as well. I think I know what it is, and that's going to be problematic, because I think that the stuttering is coming from the fact that I have SLI on, and XSplit absolutely hates SLI. That's irritating. That may, in fact, even involve a computer restart. I'm very much hoping that it doesn't, but, well, I'll do what I can. I obviously can't fix it during this game. I'm not actually dropping any frames on XSplit's end at all, so it's got to be an SLI issue. That's incredibly annoying. Alright, well, anyway, let's continue with it regardless. So, SDC is going to poke up, because he can. He does have a Marauder. He doesn't have a Concussive Shell, so it's still a little risky. You can get time warped and taken out. Double Forge play coming behind this, and there comes down the Robotics Bay. So, Colossus on the way. Splash, of course, isn't going to do anything. It just scouts, sees what it can find. Then it leaves. No real concerns there. In the meantime, we will see STC go all the way up to Starport, and once he's finished this, I wonder if he will poke, but he's not really across the map, so it seems unlikely that he's going to try and poke. He doesn't really have enough units forward to do that. He'll most likely just wait for Starport and his medevacs and then start dropping. Double upgrades coming out right here from Mana, which is a very, very robust style, certainly, and that's going to quickly outstrip the upgrades of the Terran player, which leaves some really nasty mid-game possibilities. Very much so. Gotta watch out for that as a Terran. And get caught out by a nasty 2-2 timing, especially with a lot of Stalkers. Can be pretty messy. Combat Shield on the way up here as well, an additional barrack. So, Mana is not going to attack anytime soon, right? He's not going to attack at least until he has 2 Colossus out. There's no real reason to go for it. SDC breaking through these rocks, maybe looking to take a 3rd base right now. And a couple of medevacs coming out. So the first aggression should really come from the Terran. Probably when +1 and shield is done, he will try and do a drop, I would think. Mana will most likely hold that pretty well. He usually does. And then once that happens, we'll see whether or not the STC is able to do any significant damage before this big upgrade heavy push comes out. There's the Twilight Council. The building is lining up quite nicely with 2-2, so he looks like he's going to go straight into that. Mana already knows, look, this is the kind of time when a drop can come in. STC could go for full frontal aggression here. It's feasible. There aren't that many force fields, but it's a risk. It is really a risk here. There is already a Colossus out. Mothership Core go. Oh, it doesn't go down. STC, that's a mistake. That leaves a Time Warp and another Photon Overcharge available. So it was a little bit risky to go up that ramp. He does it. He doesn't get the Mothership Core. If he did or got some of the sentries, that might be worthwhile. He's now going for a drop. Mana already knows about it. He already knows. He's got vision on the damn thing. There's an observer right there, so he's moving for the interception. Stalker's now warping in to try and engage this. Colossus moving into position. This drop really shouldn't do anything, and I'm surprised the STC is taking the risk. He scans now. He knows there's a robo. It's like, oh, there's probably an observer on me, and he decides, okay, we'll just turn around. STC going to plant down a factory, which is great to stop a third Nexus coming down for a little while. Proxy Pylon coming over the other side. Mana looking for run by. He's not going to get him. He's looking to run by on the third base by the looks of it. Well, at the moment, nothing coming out for either side. We're looking at Zealot Charge, Thermal Lance, upgrade heavy style here for Mana. Once he gets those upgrades and gets a third Colossus out, I mean, he could just go, and he could fight pretty well. And STC has not been able to punish this style yet. And he doesn't really have an economic lead either. He will, because he's going to have his third down, but still, it's a really powerful Protoss push. It's difficult to deal with. Very much so. Alright, now the STC will simply posture on the map and try and maintain control. Just to try and stop run-bys. Hasn't found that pylon yet. It would definitely be good for him if he did. That would allow him to eliminate that Zealot pretty easily. Mana now sitting on 2 Colossi and not getting a third. He's actually going for the Templar Archive, so we may just see this really powerful 2-2 push with a lot of charge and a couple of Colossus in the back. The Viking count is only at 2. It's going to be at 4, maybe 6 by the time this push hits. That's assuming Mana even wants to attack. You know, Mana is not the biggest fan of attacking. He likes to defend, and he's very, very good at it. SDC now looking to scout. It's like, oh, all right, you're taking the rocks down. You're going to try and take a third base. He might. He very well might. He also now knows that he actually doesn't know about the Colossus, but he can figure that out pretty quickly. STC now just looking for an angle. Since the observers are spread out and not actually following his army, he may be able to get one. He might be able to get into that base. It's a bit of a push here, and then he's split off his army here. So the weakness of Mana's army is it's a little bit immobile. The last thing you want to do is charge away and leave your Colossus. Takes out a pylon, kind of letting Mana know that, hey, my force is here, and another warping comes in at home. But this does allow the establishment of a third here for the STC. And the third is already up and running for him, whereas it's only just started, really, for Mana. So this is pretty good for him. We are probably going to see a Terran max out way before the Protoss. Admittedly, the Protoss is going to have an upgrade lead, but not for long. If he doesn't start 3-3 soon, and he doesn't do anything with this 2-2, then the 2-2 upgrades are going to kick in for the Terran player, and at that point, especially with the right number of Ghosts and Vikings, the Protoss is going to have a hard time. So you want to watch out for that. Yeah, it looks like the start is cleared up. Cool. I'm pretty happy about that. It was a little annoying that it was doing it in the first place. Unfortunately, the XSplit doesn't deal well with SLI, and I've had my SLI on lately, so that probably had something to do with it. Anyway, STC now pushing forward. The units killed, as you can see. It's a pretty typical Mana game. Nothing has happened. Army supply heavily in favor of the Terran player right now, and he's going out a little bit early here. I don't like this. He doesn't need to be fighting right now. And what's the reason for him to go in? And as a result, he's going to end up with a upgrade disadvantage, and a big storm comes in. The splits, there are so many storms. STC takes a pounding here, and there's nothing really to stop these Colossus. There's not enough Vikings. They're not well upgraded. We're talking about 2-2 Colossus versus 0-0 Vikings, and finally the army is cleared up here, but STC took way more damage than was necessary. Yeah, I don't agree with that decision to engage. STC just got crushed. He went in before 2-2 was finished. He didn't have enough Vikings for the Colossus. Now there's a Zealot run by coming on the third, which has done significant damage. 17 workers killed. I think STC might have just thrown that away. Well, what can I say? I was questioning Mana's choice not to move out, but it turns out STC just basically handed in an army on a silver platter, and Mana got a way more efficient end of that engagement. Good lord. And just look at that. Mana loses so few units in comparison. He basically lost Zealots and a couple of Colossus. And he kept... In fact, he didn't even lose that many Templar. He was able to morph into Archons. He cleaned up his opponent's army. And now army supply is in favor of the Protoss player. And with the third base now established, Mana is in a pretty good spot. What I will say is he won't necessarily remain there unless he's able to keep prosecuting this advantage. The upgrade lead is now even. And we're going to see the Terran go up to 3-3 and sort things out there. There's also no Colossus anymore, so the Terran can focus on getting nothing more than Ghosts. Yeah, he can get a lot of Ghosts, but he's only got 2 right now, which is nowhere near enough. There's a lot of Marauders on this in this particular army. I'm actually kind of surprised that Mana hasn't got more Zealots. But, I mean, still, actually, never mind. He has 24. I'd love to know where the rest of them are. There they are. 24 Zealots versus a Marauder heavy force. Mana has an exceptional army against what STC currently has. Really, really good. So, I'm a little worried for STC, but one should never underestimate Mana's propensity to not attack ever. So, this may have something to do with the STC kind of getting back into the game. I think Mana can now go and attack. He has a significant lead over his opponent. I think he knows that, and he's now going to make this push. He may be able to make this with 3-3 if he keeps chrono boosting. I mean, maybe he wants to wait for 3-3 and then go for that timing because he's got like a full minute of his opponent not having that. He puts down a 4th base, which is not going to live, but that's fine. That kind of buys him a little bit of time. And if 3-3 then completes, and then an attack happens from Mana with a composition like this, I do not see the STC living through it. It is too good an army. The STC does not have what it needs to match it. There's only 3 Ghosts. They don't even have Cloak. And 3-3 is about to complete. STC just sacrificing a few units to allow his army to pull back here, but that is a massive army supply lead, especially with upgrades. 3-3 kicks in. Mana should attack right now. No question. Like, he should not be hanging around. The last thing he needs is to be pulled around here. He needs to go now. He has a significant army lead. His composition is perfect against what the STC has. And he backs away. There's no need for that. He's now maxed out. He must attack now. Surely. Surely, even Mana would attack in this position. There you go. 31 Zealots, 2 Colossus, a bunch of Archons, some Templar, 3-3. Admittedly, he's about to lose that 3-3 advantage because it was too slow. But it's still a powerful army. The Mana should win this engagement unless STC takes just a phenomenal fight. And that's very, very difficult to do with that many charging Zealots. So Mana goes in right now. The Viking gets taken out, and it looks like the final battle is going to happen. Let's see if the STC can pull it off here. The Ghosts at the front get immediately obliterated. EMPs with significant damage being done here. And wow, Mana fights into a choke and gets just a hail of bullets. Did the STC just turn this around? Did Mana wait too long? It's a possibility. Those EMPs were really good. I gotta say, Mana took some damage, but he's now reinforcing with yet more charging Zealots. The Ghost count is now at 7. Wow, the STC could actually end up holding this. As I said, if Mana had gone in with the 3-3 before his opponent's 3-3 had finished, I feel it could have crushed him. But as it stands, no, STC has a fighting chance here. But he is still behind. Just bear that in mind. Stalkers go in, a quick blink out of there just to get some information. Try to pick off a Ghost, though, doesn't get it. Let's see if we get any good storms here. We did see some EMPs going down, so a lot of these Templars are not really going to be able to do much. In fact, where are most of the Templars? I don't think they're with the army. There's a bunch more elsewhere. Feedback goes down, pops a Ghost, but trades it for an EMP and a Snipe. So Mana still with a 200-200 here. But his opponent is rapidly rebuilding. 4th base has now been established for the STC. 5th coming up for Mana. 4th already established in this position. That is really unfortunate, I gotta say, for Mana. I think he was in a position where he could have just won right out, but he didn't. He elected not to do that, and he's given STC a chance to get back into this. But don't underestimate the power of things like mid-game or late-game Dark Shrines. There is a missile turret right there, but bear in mind that once you get spread out, it doesn't matter if you've got a missile turret. Unless your base is a planetary, you can still take damage from DTs. Also, mixing DTs into an army is a great idea. In come the Zealots. They're going to sacrifice themselves against... This has building armor. Wow, it's not going to do anything. That's pretty rare that we see that. Alright, now here's the Yunsu problem that I mentioned earlier. As you see, stuff just gets picked off on the high ground there, but it looks like Mana wants to engage against that planetary. He's going to take a lot of damage doing it. Actually, never mind. He has so much firepower that it doesn't really matter. Storm comes down the SCVs as they try to repair it. Nice move there by Mana. And a big run-by comes into the natural here. 47 workers killed by Mana's run-bys up to this point. Devastating economic damage. He's hit the 3rd as well. Zealots on that too. The SCV count of the STC is plummeting right now. Let's see if STC can get a good fight. He's going to need it. He is going to need it. If he can destroy the army here, he may be able to still push for the win. The Colossus caught in a bad spot. Another one is going to fall. STC takes a big storm, but it doesn't kill the army quite yet. Another storm would finish him off, though. These guys are so low. Down goes the last Colossus. Storm goes on the Vikings here as well. DTs and Zealots getting involved in this fight. A lot of cloaked Ghosts involved, though. There are no observers on the field, but the STC's army has taken a lot of pounding. And frankly, his economy is in shatters. In shambles. It's shattered. You know what I mean. STC has not been able to harass this entire game. Mana is in a good spot. He's not entirely... STC is not entirely dead. Please do not underestimate the power of 3-3 Marine Marauder Medevac. Down go the rest of the Vikings. And there are not enough Medevacs, I don't think, to keep these units alive. But Mana's taken a lot of damage too. But his economy is just so good that Mana can replenish. And STC really can't. We're going to be seeing a lot of Marines coming out from the STC as he drops mule after mule. And he's strip mining. This third base is almost mined out. This is mined out. STC, unfortunately, complaining about lag here as well. Which is sad, I'm afraid, but such is the way of things. And now STC moving with the remains of his army. Frankly, his army is still kind of scary, honestly. We are still looking at a larger army for the Terran player, just because there's so many units, and so few workers, but this is dicey here for the STC. Mana now moving in. There's a lot of ghosts here, and we're going to see a cloak from the STC pretty quickly before he loses all the ghosts. There it is. Where is the observer? It's actually not with the army here. This is not good. Not good at all. Cloak ghosts can actually eliminate this army pretty handily. In comes the observer. These ghosts get stormed. They sit in it, and another storm comes in. That's the STC dead and gone. GG. And Mana evens up the series. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that once again. I've turned my SLI off, so I'm hoping that will get rid of the stutter. There was no reason for the frames to be dropping, so I'm hoping that fixes it. So here we go. Welcome to Acheron Waste. It's my pleasure to bring you Mousesports Mana, who has equalized the Series 1 apiece. He is in the blue trunks, he is playing Protoss to the northwest. Versus his opponent, it is the Joker, using CJ Sky High. Alright, yep, this is one of Major's many names. Yes, it is Major, the Joker, for complexity. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Terran to the southeast. So, for those who don't know, in the Acer Teamstory Cup, you can bring along a Joker player if you feel like your roster is not quite strong enough, which means basically a mercenary. So, in this case, we have Major, who is a teamless player. It's a pretty cool way to allow some of the teamless players to compete in another league. And, of course, it's a good way to flesh out your roster. In the Starcraft 2 League, SC2L, we actually used Grubby as one of our mercenaries, as our only mercenary, in fact, for Axiom, since our lineup was only 4 at that point. Now that it's 5, we don't feel any need to have something like that, but Major coming out, he's pretty strong. I mean, the STC was complaining about lag there. It's entirely possible, unfortunately. I mean, he was playing from Korea to the American server. You can have lag. That can happen. Thankfully, it wasn't on a European server. That would have been way, way better. But we did see a little bit of sloppy control there by the STC, but frankly, I don't think his loss really came down to that. I think the lack of harassment was a big key to that, and he let run-bys happen over and over again. He didn't protect himself well enough against zealot run-bys, and as a direct result, he took devastating economic damage. His engagements, especially towards the end, when it seemed like he'd kind of given up, were less great than I would have expected. But at that point, it's like, right, I probably lost. I'm just going to eat the storms. He didn't really eat too many big storms in the main engagements, though. So I don't know how much lag really affected him. But at the end of the day, if you don't drop the Protoss for like 30 minutes and you just allow him to get 4 bases and 3-3 and the perfect composition, then what results from that is really to be expected. Alright, going to be a Reaper opening here from Major. Again, very standard in this matchup, as you might imagine. And Mana's going to take 2 in each gas this time around. Probably exactly the same build. We're most likely going to see a Gateway, Cybercore, and then an expansion. And then after that, we might see the Robo come down on 1 gate for the Observer very, very early on. And then 2 additional gates, and then maybe Tech, Double Forge. That would be Mana's standard playstyle. But he may differentiate that. It's entirely possible. Also, please pay no attention to what appears to be a lawnmower outside. This is a neighborhood where mowing lawns appears to be a patriotic duty. I've never really quite understood that, but there it is. Mana actually going for the 1 gate expand, perhaps Robo after that, which would be totally fine. This is not an aggressive opening here from Major at all, but it does allow Major to pick up a probe. So that's pretty cool. It does scout the expansion, and it's going to confirm here for Mana that he doesn't really have to worry too much about what's going on. Mothership core out really early for Mana as well. Really early, actually. As, hey, this is the first unit I've got. He is playing super defensively. It's not that you can't be annoying with it, but at the end of the day, it's a slow unit. You don't really want to lose it early game, and it's great to have it initially because any early pokes can be dealt with Photon Overcharge. It's also pretty good for chasing the Reaper off. Generally doesn't kill it because it can't outrun it, but you get the idea. So Mana's going to expand here, and this has been scouted quite effectively here by Major. The question is now, what does Major do? Well, Factory is coming down. Let's see what we see out of this. I mean, this is really standard one Reaper into Reactor Barracks play, which then generally is followed up by a Factory, which can be followed up by tanks, or it can be followed up by Medivacs, and it looks like it might be that. But you can also go Banshee here, because you have a decent amount of Marines, and then you bring a Banshee out, and then you kind of get aggressive with that. He's also bringing out a Widow Mine as well, which is interesting, so we may see a push involving that. It also could be the full Marine 2 Widow Mine drop, which generally transitions quite nicely out of that Reaper opening, because you get the Factory at around the right time to build 2 Widow Mines, get 1 Medevac, have at least 4 Marines available, then drop it and be an annoying pain in the ass. And of course, that's great against the Protoss, absolutely phenomenal against the Protoss, because those Widow Mines just destroy probes very easily, which they don't do so well to other things. As you can see, 40 splash damage is, say, not enough to kill SCVs. It murders probes horribly, though. Absolutely. Kills Stalkers really well, too. So, it's hard to complain. Now, bear in mind that Mana is already kind of prepared for this, because he does have an Observer coming out. It is going to be out by the time that this hits, by the looks of it. And it's not going to be a drop as of yet, but I think maybe he's going to pressure the front and then drop in the back. That's a possibility. Those are things that he could do. Reaper gets in again. That Reaper has been value. What can I say? It's going to die now, but it's going to scout the Twilight. It's going to scout the Twilight on 1 Forge instead of 2, and in comes the aggression immediately. The Time Warp really was a little late there, but it was enough. Good splitting there by Mana, and it looks like he's going to keep all these Stalkers alive, which is very impressive. That's a good control there by Mana. Mothership Core gets taken out, and actually 2 Observers take hits as well, which is hilarious, but in the meantime, that Reaper's actually in the back. This Reaper is ridiculous. It's done so much work. I'm so impressed with that Reaper. 10 Marines and a Widow Mine couldn't do what this Reaper did. It's been picking off probes all day, every day. It was wonderful. Good lord. Fantastic stuff here. And finally, I think it's going to die. It takes out 1 more probe. What a hero. It'll be remembered in the annals of history for that one. In comes the drop, scouted by the Observer. It's the 2 Widow Mine 4 Marine drop that I was talking about. And it looks like, actually, Mana's not going to directly defend it. He's got to be a little bit careful with his control here. I think he's going to lose a Stalker. No, it actually hits probe instead, so never mind. There are enough Marines there to chase these Stalkers out, I feel. And he picks up the Widow Mine, and he is gone. The lack of the alive Mothership Core with a Photon Overcharge meant that that was allowed to happen. So Major does a pretty good job of killing workers. I mean, he's killed 11 so far. This harassment's been great. Mana hasn't left his side of the maps, and Major, who is not sky high, don't believe his lies, is just ahead in pretty much every aspect right now. Now, we did see Mana go with a single Forge in the Twilight, which indicates to me he may want to consider Blink. His Stalker count, I mean, his unit count in general is pretty low. He might want to go for Stalkers, but wow, speed drop coming in. The Photon Cannon not done yet, and down go the Widow Mines, and detonation doesn't really do much. The Photon Cannon finishes just the right time, and it looks like Major's going to be driven away. Thankfully, there's no Blink, so this is going to live. But a Marine push comes in again. Bear in mind, these are unupgraded. No stim, no combat shield on these guys, and no +1. So, rapidly, I think Mana's going to be in a good spot to deal with this. Yes, some economic damage has been done. There's no real question about that. Down goes the Observer. Nice play. But I'm still a little bit concerned about this upgrade lead coming in. Photon Overcharge is now in effect. Widow Mine was killed before it was able to burrow, so Mana has dealt with this relatively well. But you gotta say, even though economic damage has been done, units lost is not ideal. A lot of units killed, and they've mostly been, in fact, they've all been army units as well. So there's been a lot of units killed here by the Protoss player, and a lot of sacrifices made here by Major. A lot of Widow Mines, a Medevac, bunch of Marines killed, and all this aggression means that all of his upgrades are behind. So we've got Combat Shield and Concussive Shell just starting. Stim is on the way. +1 infantry weapons. And we're going to see charge by the looks of it out of Mana, which I like, considering he's going for the armor single forge charge build, which is like, oh, hey, I'm going to go really Zealot heavy, because Zealots, 66% of their health is in the actual health pool and not the shields, which means that +1 armor and +2 armor is super effective against a heavy, low upgraded Marine count, which, of course, Mana knows is the case. However, this economic lead for Major cannot be understated. He's got a 3rd base. And he's already damaged his opponent's probe count significantly, taking out 12. So he has the economic lead. Mana has to be a little bit careful that he just doesn't get out-massed here. And frankly, the +1 upgrade that he's got right now is about to be negated. Major really wants to attack right now. This would be a great time to do it because the upgrades will be equal. Charge is not done yet. Storm is not done yet. And the actual unit count on the field for Mana, there's next to no units. We've got almost double the supply here for Major. This could be a perfect timing here for Major. If he has any sense whatsoever, he will attack right now. The rocks are going to delay him for a little bit, so we may see Storm come out. In fact, we are most likely going to see Storm be ready before this army attacks. That may make the difference, but Mana has an uphill battle ahead of him. He stims forward. Storm is now done. He stims forward a couple of units because he really wants to take out this Templar. Tries to go over the target fire, takes the Sentry out, loses a couple of units in the process. Still got to be careful about this engagement. The Templar are currently out of range right now, and there are just so many more units here for Major, and he didn't get a good engagement there at all. Just gotta watch out for those storms. Those, I think, are the only thing that can really turn this around. One photon overcharge is done. Major's in a really good spot to kill his opponent here, but he decides to back off. The longer he waits, of course, the more energy is available, the more storm is available here, and Major says, you know what? Okay, fine. I don't want to go for it. Ooh, could have maybe focused the Templar down there, and in fact, he's gonna go and try and do it. The concussive shell is in effect. One Templar goes down. Very, very nice. Surgical play there by Major. That's what we like to see. Major's still in a really good spot. Oh, down goes the factory and is now going to build a Widow Mine. Unfortunately, supply block, so that's not going to happen, but hey. Is delaying the third a little bit, and it also brings the army out of position. Another Templar. Storm just wings his opponent. Little bit of damage. Second Templar going to die. This is great. Oh, it doesn't die. Oh, Major's so close to taking that one out. But, man, army supply still heavily in favor of the Terran player right now. +2 about to finish. +1 attack nowhere near done for Mana here. Major's in a really, really good spot. Templar count is still at 6, though. So, the thing is, they're too low on energy to Storm. If Major goes right now, he can break that ramp, I feel. He's looking at the energy. He's thinking, do I want to go? And he says, I don't know if I want to go. This would be the time. It really, really would. Doesn't get the Observer, unfortunately, but if he waits any longer, there's going to be a lot of Storm, and that's going to be difficult to dodge. In comes the Stim. All right, he's going to engage on 2 fronts right now. He's going to try and flank. Mana is aware of it. Double Storm comes down. Significant damage being inflicted here, and has enough Zealots on that side. More Storms go down. Mana, you god! Look at that. Major's army gets absolutely destroyed. However, we should not underestimate the number of reinforcements that are coming behind us. Mana overextends, loses a few Zealots as well. Mana with a really efficient defense there. But the Templar count is down to 3, and the energy count even lower. Of course, we have a few Archons replacing those Templar. Overstimming maybe here from Major. That could cause him a problem or two. Takes out a couple of pylons. He's looking to do the big evacuation play here, and he's able to do that to the right. Very nicely done. In the meantime, that Archon gets attacked and says, Marauders, I can tank those all day, and rightfully so. Mana doing a decent job of defense. Warp Prism harassment now coming in, and this is what killed the STC. Not the Warp Prism harass, but just harass in general. And Mana is able to stop the third base from mining entirely, which is great, and is now going towards the main mineral line as well. Takes out a couple of those Marines quite nicely, and now the Zealots are going to get gunned down without mercy. Only one worker killed there. That's a little embarrassing, I've got to say. Obviously a bit of wasted mining time there, but that maybe could have been a little bit better. Medevac just randomly gets shot out of the air for no reason, I guess, that they didn't need that one anymore. It's like when you retire the old jets and you send them to that graveyard in Arizona. Pretty much like that. Engines were falling off. Seats were all worn down. There was like a stain that they couldn't remove. It's a tough job. This medevac count is really high. Sitting at 12 right now. It may be too high. Gotta watch out for that. Can be a little bit unfortunate if you have too many medevacs and you don't have enough ground units. And this army's getting close to maxed out as well. We're starting to see Vikings coming out now. There are no Colossus yet. There's going to be at least a couple of minutes before Colossus really come out on the field. So I think, again, Major has a good opportunity. Army supply is very, very high here, and the Templar count is... It was a lot lower, but he just warped in a bunch more. So maybe he can be aggressive on the third, but this is a choke point he really doesn't want to go into. There is a big possibility of massive storms here, and most of Major's army's there as well. EMPs go down. Snipes go down as well. There's not a lot of storm here. But a couple of these Templar in the Warp Prism. Storm Drop comes in, and the Storms are actually not that great. He does do a lot of damage to the Medevacs, but he misses the units. And as a direct result, this pressure can continue to come in here from the Terran player. Massed ranked firepower comes in, and frankly, I think this is going to be the end of the third at least, if not the rest of the army. Another EMP hits the Archon. That army just fell to pieces, and there's the GG. Major brings down the hammer on his Protoss opponent. So there you go. Nicely played there by Major, and he brings it up to 2-1 here for Complexity. So let's see who comes out next. Maybe it's time to break out Vortex here for Mousesports. That's a possibility. We may see Hazawobs come out, and of course there are a couple of Zerg options for Mousesports. We'll see who it is after this break. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Acer Teamstory Cup Season 2 match between Mousesports and Complexity. We will be going into the next map very, very shortly indeed. It's going to be on Whirlwind, and we're seeing a Zerg player come out for the first time today. It is going to be Hope from Team Mousesports sent up to face against the mighty Major. Let's see how this one goes for them. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Whirlwind. The biggest, most annoying map in the map pool that everybody now hates. It's true. Whirlwind used to be like, oh wow, look at this map. I know it used to be one of Ryung's favorites, but at this point, it's a little bit out of date. Obviously, we have kind of an older map pool here, so I think some tournaments are just phasing Whirlwind out entirely, but there you go. Anyway, we got Mousesports Hope. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Zerg to the northeast of this particular map. The most puntastic of players, by the way. Every caster on the planet has at some point used the joke, he is the last hope for Mousesports. It's never been funny ever. In the northwest position, in the blue trunks, having taken out Mana convincingly, he is playing Terran. His name is Major, and he's not really part of Team Complexity at all. He's an imposter. He snuck in. He is, in fact, the Joker mercenary player for Complexity. One Joker or mercenary is allowed for each team per season. Alright, so there's one thing you need to know about Hope. Yeah, there's one thing you need to know. And I believe this actually happened in Acer Teamstory Cup Season 1. He all-killed Western Wolves in the qualifiers. All killed. He killed, let's see, it was Arthur, Starnan, Ziktamini, and Morrow. All kill. Impressive, very impressive. He actually kept Western Wolves out of the Acer Teamstory Cup in Season 1. Which is interesting, because now the Western Wolves team is dominating Acer Teamstory Cup Season 2 because of their mercenary San and the excellent plays from Czech. Like, it's just... oh, they are ridiculously good at what they do. It's insane. Czech is just a monster. So, I have a feeling they're gunning for him. I really do. I don't think they've played Mousesports yet, but I think when they do, the first thing they're going to try and do is destroy Hope completely. Just for that. A little bit of petty revenge. But Hope is not to be underestimated. He's definitely one of the younger and newer players for Mousesports, but he can win games. He's good in team leagues, very good in team leagues. He often takes the map that he's asked to do, sometimes is able to double or triple that value. So, I can't complain about Hope's playstyle whatsoever. Major, as we've seen, is just rock-solid consistent throughout. He is more often than not playing in the WCS America Premier Division, which is very impressive considering that's basically GSL 2. So, he is competing very well against the Koreans. He's able to take games and series off them, which is something that most foreign Terrans can't do. So, that in itself is impressive. Ooh, nice play there by Hope. He's actually sitting right on top of the drone there, sitting on top of the supply depot. Delays that barracks just a little bit. He can actually get into the base if he wants to, but he knows he'll be trapped, so he decides not to. So, nice little bit of initial harass there. Knows what his opponent's doing. Hatchery first play did come out from the Zerg player. And then we saw Spawning Pool go down. No problems from either side thus far. Just a couple of links coming out. A couple of queens from Hope as well. So, it is Whirlwind, and it's not at least in cross position, so they're a little bit closer. But in the early game, you don't see that much aggression. Doesn't happen. Major with the scout has confirmed that there are no shenanigans going on. Has he confirmed that it's not a 3-hatch? He has. Of course, since he confirmed the spawning pool was there, doesn't need to really worry about that. And now we're going to see this expansion come down for the Terran player. No real worries there. Factory coming down as well. Major electing not to build a Reaper, going straight to Reactor, going straight for macro mode right now. He knows what his opponent's doing. He feels that he doesn't need a Reaper. So, and I'd kind of agree with him, honestly. A couple of links coming in are going to get gunned down. There's going to be 4 queens coming out right here from Hope. So we're going to see major creep spread. Pardon the pun. Mousesports last hope. Mousesports, the new hope. Episode... just shut up. Shut up. There are times when I'm just going to tell my brain, it's like, you're embarrassing yourself. Quit it. This is why you don't get hired for tournaments anymore. Alright, now Major's going to make his way over, and he's going to find a link. He found that hidden link. Now it's been gunned down, mercilessly. I'm so sorry. And he has confirmed that this third base position is now relatively clear. He also knows where the overloads are, which is quite useful. It's nice to know. It's like, oh, there's no Overlord going around there, which means in about 3 hours it's going to make its way into here. And it's going to scout anything, so want to hide anything, that's probably not going to happen. Admittedly, at this stage of the game, it's like the Terran... You ever notice, like, Terran just don't really hide anything past, like, the 6-minute mark for the most part. It's fairly rare. Unless you proxy BC like me. But even then, you start building the starport before then. So, the Terran player hiding tech is really not that relevant. You've kind of got to assume that the Terran player has whatever tech that he needs. So, unless you confirm that there's a mech play going on, which obviously is currently not happening since Stimpack is on the way, then there's really not much to find in the Terran base. Alright, we're going to see a partial wall-off, and I do emphasize the word partial, but the Queens are going to see this coming. Not really a lot of Hellions. There's only 4 on the field, but there's about to be 6. He's going to scout the third base. He can't really do anything to it, though. And the creep spread and the Queen defense is pretty good. He can slip past if he gets enough Hellions together. He probably can't kill the Queens with 6 Hellions, especially with the number of transfuses available. Spine Crawler going down here as well. And we're going to see the double upgrade style. Very classic style here from the Mousesports Zerg player who has not elected to go up to lair as of yet. Staying on hatchery tech, getting speed, getting +1/+1, which is absolutely fine initially. Hell, tell life about that. It's like, yeah, those are the only units I need. That's absolutely fine. What other tech could you possibly desire other than a bunch of upgraded Zerglings? And we've got a double engineering bay coming out here from Major, so a very economically focused bio play here. This scout is going to be shot to pieces. He's like, oh, he has mules. That was unexpected. So that didn't really teach him all that much, frankly. He already knew about that for the most part. He didn't get a full scout, so he didn't see that refinery going down. That may be indicative of a tech-heavy play there from the Terran player, but I don't really feel that that's massively useful information, and it's not too bad that he missed out on it. Shame he lost an Overlord for that, but hey, it happens. And we've got mostly just contain and map control play coming out right here from Major. He's not even interested in getting into the enemy base, and as a direct result, Hope is powering drones heavily. He's already up to 63, which is a very good amount at this stage, and he's got more on the way. 67 now, and now is going for that layer tech. He'll be going straight into +2/+2, I would imagine, after this, and just sticking on Ling Baneling, and then maybe he could go for the Mutalisk tech, but frankly, his gas count, I don't know, his gas count might be pretty good. Once he hits layer, he could go Spire here, but he's going centrifugal hooks, and it looks like +2/+2, I would think. Maybe he goes for Mutal later on and plays that Ling Muta. There are other styles available, of course, to him. That's a possibility, but I would expect Mutalisk for the most part to come out eventually from the Zerg player right now. Ling Baneling is enough to deal with what his opponent currently has, though. Like, there are no tanks. It's mostly just Marine. Maybe he adds on an Infestation Pit. That's a possibility. But he certainly has what he needs to deal with this, and those upgrades are going to help him a lot. But at the moment, his opponent is trying to catch up on the upgrades. So we're going to see Major go for 2/2. Are we going to see a Spire come down from Hope here? He's sitting on 900 gas. He's got a Spire. Surely he's got a Spire at this stage. Even 2/2, you're not going to be able to sink all of that gas, not by a long shot. So surely we will see a Spire. 1,000 gas now. Gotta be a Spire. There it is. Alright, Major's now going to push out. No combat shields yet. He's not going to have them by the time he hits the creep, because the creep spread from Hope has been really, really good so far. That's going to give him a massive amount of early warning, especially on this 4th base here. Some creep cleanup is happening here, but this is mostly just Marine Hellion. And are there enough Banelings? Well, he's on creep, so even... Oh, no! Major! Major, 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 you silly bear. That was absolutely unnecessary. Loses and all of his Hellions, gets completely surrounded. Fantastic engagement there for Hope. And that was without Baneling speed. Now he's got Baneling speed. Ooh, that was painful. 2/2 now starts. There's going to be at least 10 Mutalisks, probably 11 or 12, maybe even 13 coming out here from Hope. It depends if he decides to go for the +1 upgrade on them immediately, but Major took significant damage in that engagement. It might have been a little bit too early. He didn't quite know what his opponent had, and he's got a lot of units. 76 Zerglings, 12 Banelings, 2/2 is on the way, and Aspire is about to finish, and that's going to be 13 Mutalisks and a +1 upgrade by the looks of it. You can't complain. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Hope's in a really good spot right now, honestly. The Terran player does have a lot of units coming out, don't get me wrong, but he's going to have to fight on a lot of creep against Banelings, so we're going to have to see some really, really good splits here from Major to deal properly with that. He has no tanks. He's all Marine. All Marine, which is not ideal against a Baneling-heavy composition, as you're well aware, but I assume that he knows about the Spire play. Drop comes down, takes out yet another Overlord, which is going to be pretty annoying. He knows about the double evolution chamber, and generally speaking, that will lead into Mutaling Baneling play, so he is aware of that. But a lot of Marines is still not going to help you against a large amount of Banelings, and there's still a lot of gas available here for Hope. He can get more Banes if he needs them. Widowmine's on the way. Now, that will help. 3 at a time. He's already got 7 on the field, and Drilling Claws on the way, too. So that could be enough to deal with this. It depends how good Hope is at engaging with Widowmines. The Widowmines can either be really effective against this style or completely worthless. Drop comes in from Major here. And there's a Queen and some Lings to clean this up, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, that should be a pretty easy cleanup there. These Lings are, of course, nicely upgraded with the 1-1. They're about to have 2-2. They weren't quite enough to deal with this, though, so a couple of drones are probably going to go down to this, but not too bad. There's a Widowmine in the back, which is a little nasty. That's about 3 killed there, and then the big push comes in from Major here as well. The Mutalisk count is at 14. It's not enough to fight what he's got. More Lings now streaming in to try and clean this up. Gotta watch out for them Widowmines. They've actually do more damage to the Terran Force than anything else, and he knows that. Major unburrows, reburrows, looks to try and target them. Oh, the Banelings! Oh, wow. That is a lot of Banelings that just went down there. And this is going to get cleaned up, but that was still pretty costly there. But, oh, I think with these medevacs going down, I think that's definitely a win there for the Zerg play. He takes out half the medevac count as well. That Marine heavy composition gets just obliterated. Hope is looking good right now, and now he's got harassment potential. He is sitting comfortably on 4 bases. Another drop comes in, though. Major with a big double drop with the Widowmines. So he wants to economically harass his opponent. He actually has the worker lead now, if you can believe that. Lings come in, and the detonations come in as well. Of course, that kills a bunch of Lings, but it also kills a bunch of the Terran units. So he does need to get the clear. Oh, that was fortunate. That could have hit the mute account, and it didn't. Now he can clean this up, but some wild play coming on right here from Major. I'm not entirely convinced it's the most efficient ever, but it certainly seems to be doing the damage. Another drop comes in right there. The economy of Hope is taking significant losses here. Mute account is still pretty good. I think it needs to rise even more, honestly, and that's what he's looking to do. 2-2 is now done, but it's done for the Terran player as well. 3-3 is on the way, and 3-3 Marines will absolutely devastate those kind of Mutalisk packs, so he's got to watch out. Queens kill these so slowly that they might be ready to fire again by the time that it happens. And we're going to see a drop to support it as well. Down goes one, down goes the other. The Queen's going to die now, and we're also going to see a fairly ravaged mineral line. The Lings now coming in to try and deal with that as quickly as possible, but we are actually already seeing 8 in there, and oh, he's siphoning them in one at a time. I don't know what he's doing there. That's a mistake. He's a little bit too busy with the pressure that's going on over here. Yet more Banelings try and connect, and they don't connect that well, frankly. And now Major's in a pretty good spot. He's had good Widowmines. He's had good engagements. This was... I'm not really sure what Hope was doing. I think he just had his multitasking stretched. He was sending in Lings to their death 3 at a time, which is not good at all. And now his economy has taken significant damage. We're seeing damage on the Queens there as well, and a lot of units thrown away. Army supply is now pretty equal, honestly, and we're seeing a 4th base down. For the Terran player, he's about to have a planetary fortress there. He's pushed right towards the Zerg player, saying, you know what, I'm not afraid of you. And I suppose we're now going to have to see just how effective these mutas are. Against 3 turrets? Not very, is the answer. Not very. And the Marines come in to sight down a couple more as well. Not ideal. Another base is cancelled down here, too. And quite frankly, Hope is being stretched pretty thinly by Major right now. He had some good initial fights, but now Major is very clearly ahead. Looking for the interception there on that drop, and he's able to get a full medevac out of that, so that's a nice little equalizer, but it's still not enough. Army supply is 114 to 86. A 3-3 is about to be done, so these mutas are about to be basically useless in a main fight, which is unfortunate, and this forward base is completely covered. You can't even do a flyby here because it will be hit by this missile turret, so it's difficult. It's very difficult right now for the Zerg player. Major looking really good. Once 3-3 kicks in, this force is going to be an absolute powerhouse. Bear in mind that Hope never went up to Hive Tech. He's been stuck on Lair, which means he's going to have an upgrade deficit, and he's going to be muta-heavy against Widowmine 3-3 Marine. I mean, it could not be any worse. Maybe if there were 10 Thors with 3-3 upgrades as well, maybe then it would be worse, but this Mutalisk count is going to be pretty useless against the army his opponent's got. He's relying primarily on Banelings. Another engagement comes in, and he takes out a lot of the Widowmines at the front, which is pretty good. But honestly, the Banelings didn't trade all that well, and there's still a lot of Marines, which is the big risk here. And now that 4th base is going to die, and a drop comes in as well. Gets cleaned up eventually by the Mutalisk count, so he keeps the Lair alive at least, but a 4th base goes pop. And I mean, he's not even mining from this. It's mostly mined out. This is getting mined out as well, so the Zerg player's under a lot of pressure. Hope actually has enough units to just go in right now, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He has skimped on his upgrades for his mutas, though, and I think if he runs into Marines at all... Oh, wow, is he dropping below that? That is a very risky maneuver. I'm very surprised that he elected to do that. That's almost suicide. But there's a widow mine under there somewhere. Oh, what? Everything's dying. Oh... Man, if he'd been able to get the widow mines down, that may have killed that completely, but actually I felt that went in the direction of hope. He lost maybe 6-7 mutalisks, but he killed a significant chunk of his opponent's army. If that had been full of widow mines, or he'd got the widow mines down earlier, that would have been an absolutely devastating move, but as it stands, it was suicidal. Hope is still behind, though. Very much so, and I think Major knew that. It's like, you know what? Look at my production. Just look at it. Look at my macro. How much money am I getting? My income is astronomically higher than yours. I got more than double what you've got. I am in a perfect position to make those inefficient plays because I know your army is mutas. That's it. You have got mutalisks against 671 3-3 Marines. Any direct engagement for you is going to be absolutely disastrous, and I know that. And he's taking yet more damage from the missile turrets. The mutant count's down to 14 right now, and this could be the game-ending push here. Major is maxed out, and Hope definitely doesn't have much, I'm afraid. In comes that engagement with the Banelings. He needs phenomenal connections, and he's not going to get them. Absolutely not. Major taking maybe a bit more damage than necessary, but it doesn't matter. GG. No hope, I'm afraid. And Major pulls his adopted team 3-1 ahead. That was excellent. Hope had a really good early game, but he never managed to turn it into anything. He couldn't transition out of it, and he wasn't able to get up to Hive Tech and actually get his upgrades going and then bring Ultralisks into the mix. Couldn't do anything. Stuck on that low tech against 3-3, BO9, you're pretty dead. I gotta say. Nicely played there by Major. Very, very, very powerhouse play. What can I say? Alright, let's see who they send out next. I think at this point it kind of has to be Vortex, honestly. Maybe they send Hazuobs, but I think they've got to send Vortex out at this point. Let's see if that is the case. We'll find out after the break. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are going back into this series, and it looks like they're actually going to send out another Protoss player. So here we go. Let's see how he does. His name, ladies and gents, is Mousesports Hazuobs. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the northwest of Belshire Vestige right here, versus his opponent to the southeast position. It is 2 kills in already, Mr. Major, who is actually playing for Team Complexity right now, but he is currently teamless. He is a mercenary for the team. A ringer, as you would say. But rightfully so, he's allowed to do that. They are absolutely allowed to do that in the rules. They can take 1 Joker player, and they're pretty glad it's Major right now because he's just taken out the STC. He took out Mana, and he took out Hope. So he's doing pretty well, and now he's going to face Hazuobs. Hazuobs being rock solid. His performance in Season 2 of WCS Europe was very impressive, gotta say. And he is, of course, one of the longest-serving Mousesports players, and a veteran of the Starcraft 2 scene. Formerly a Warcraft 3 player. Pretty damn good at it, too. So, let's see how he does. I'm a little... Well, I'm a little surprised that we're seeing proxy racks right here on 11. It's double. This is 11-11. I mean, it's as classic as it gets. He's looking for a really early end to this. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't send out Vortex, frankly, because, honestly, you want maybe the opportunity to bring back Lucifron as your ace, or maybe you want a double Vortex, for instance, but he missed it. He missed it. He had no idea. Proxy 11-11. Oh, old school as it gets. Oh, I guess it's good that Hazuobs isn't going Nexus first. He's going Gateway, but like even that's going to be difficult to hold. It really depends on whether or not he gets a Sentry out early. A Zealot's not going to be enough to deal with Proxy 11-11. This Scout's going to come in. It's going to take a little bit of time. He's going to spot nothing. And I think based on... If he counts the number of SCVs, he's going to know exactly what's happening here. It may not even be enough to stop it. There's already a Marine in the base. As the Scout comes in, Hazuobs confirms, oh, damn. Actually, that's not a Marine. That's an SCV. Chrono Boost comes in. And he's going to try and maintain high ground vision by the looks of it. And Major is just going to wait. Is he going to try and bunker him? I mean, it seems unlikely, but... Alright, let's see where it goes. SCV production has resumed here, so... it's definitely pressured. That's now been scouted here. 3 Marines, 2 SCVs on the way up against 1 Zealot. There are no sentries available here. That's perhaps the most important thing. But there is a Mothership Core. This build is less effective now as a result of that, which is why I'm kind of surprised that he's going for it. Bunker now going up on the high ground. Of course, once Photon Overcharge is put into play, this push will be shut down. So this seems like it's more of an economic opening, as weird as it sounds. Proxy 1111 being economic, yeah, because it forces your opponent to pull a lot of probes off, forces them to build an early Mothership Core. Photon Overcharge is actually like a good number of seconds away from happening here, and a lot of probes are going to be killed by this. The bunker gets stopped, admittedly, but even then, I mean, look at the amount of probe damage that's been done. He's already equalized, and he could go even further than this. There's now enough Marines just to end the game. So there you go. I think this is going to be a very, very early end here. I don't, unless there's some incredible surround, I do not see any circumstance where Hazawobs gets out of this. He has already been absolutely devastated by this attack. There are more Marines on the way. There is a single Stalker in the Mothership Core remaining. Photon Overcharge is not ready yet. The timing was actually very good. The last of the probes are about to be hunted down, and this is going to be a very, very swift 4-1, I feel, for Major. 5 probes left. The rest of them have been hunted down. There are no probes. No probes remaining. One comes out and is instantly shot at. Photon Overcharge is going to be the only thing which drives this army away, and there's only 1 probe on the map. So maybe Hazawobs elects to kind of drive it forward a little bit, but the Mothership Core's now been driven away. It can't get... He knows that the risk is that it gets to the Nexus. If he prevents that from happening, there is no possibility of Hazawobs coming back in this. There really isn't anyway. Like, he has been devastated. Major would have to leave his computer. He would have to leave for 5 minutes, come back, then resume playing, and even then, Hazawobs would still be behind. And the Mothership Core gets the Photon Overcharge on, so that's going to kill the remainder of the Marines, but it's 2 probes. 2 probes. All of the Marines are going to die, but it's 2 probes. There's still 4 Marines, and that Stalker is in a bad position as well. That might end up dying too. Man, if Hazawobs gets out of this, it will be the most miraculous comeback I've ever seen. It's highly unlikely. Hazawobs' control, pretty damn impeccable here. But let's be frank. Let's be honest. Major is way in the lead at this point. Hazawobs is a tough cookie for staying in this game, I've got to say, but he is so far behind. That Mothership Core now does not have the energy for another Photon Overcharge. It is now time for Major to march in and win the game. I'm not going to pretend there's even a possibility of Hazawobs living at this point. No way. It can't be done. Absolutely not. Stalker takes yet more fire. The remaining probes will be driven away here. Those remaining Marines come in as well. The Stalker Micro has got to be absolutely amazing. And it isn't. All the probes go down. A single probe is all that's left. He has no money to build another. More Marines come in. This is going to be a GG. No possibility of survival. Down goes the last unit. Hazawobs complains about lag, and then GG. I have a feeling he may have been joking around just a little bit there. That was a clone of what the STC said, so it was all in good humor. Major obliterates his opponent. Utterly destroys him. Wow. Impressive. Very impressive. It's 4-1. It is 4-1. Who do Acer Teamstory Cup send out? Who do Mousesports send out now in the Acer Teamstory Cup? It's got to be Vortex now, surely. You don't send out anyone else in this situation. Major is destroying everybody you have. You have got to send Vortex out. Let's see. We will find out after this break. It looks... We'll probably go back into the European server for this, but let's see how it goes. Alright, ladies and gents, welcome back to the Acer Teamstory Cup. The potential ace match coming on right here. Match point for Complexity, who are currently ahead at 4-1. And of course, unfortunately for Mousesports, they do not have Vortex available because he is currently in the air. He is flying to the US for the WCS Finals, which is why they haven't sent him out today. That's an awkward spot to be in, because Vortex is definitely their most powerful player right now. Is Mana capable of beating Major? Absolutely. No question. But is he capable of beating the rest of Complexity? That's a different matter entirely. Will he be able to pull this off? He is way behind. He has got a lot on his shoulders, but he is a veteran. Let's see if he can do it. Here we go, folks. Newkirk Precinct will be the venue for today's encounter between Mr. Major, or Senior Major, as we like to call him. He is in the blue trunks, and he is playing Terran to the southwest of Newkirk Precinct versus his opponent to the southeast position, Mousesports Mana, in the red trunks playing Protoss. Mana put up a good performance against STC. I felt he was a little timid, but that's Mana in a nutshell. Mana never attacks. I think perhaps the best way to say is that Mana is never timid. He attacks precisely when he means to, which is very, very late, unnecessarily so. He's a very, very cautious and safe player. And that has cost him games in the past, but it's also won him games in the past. So you cannot argue with that style. His record speaks for itself. However, I think he could have put the nail in the coffin of STC much, much earlier and exploited that really great timing window that he had. Regardless, he's a very solid player. But I am concerned that he may not be able to beat Major. Major already beat him once before. And we're going to see a gas first play here from Major as well. Aggressive. Very much so. Could be Cloak Banshee. Maybe not ideal against Mana, because Mana has a tendency to go one Gateway Robo, but you never know. We'll see. This could be something else entirely. We already saw that Major has a great variety of builds. Like, he is well-rounded. You've got to admit, he is a well-rounded player. He's beaten all 3 races in this particular series so far. He's done so with Macro. He's done so with Cheese. He is capable of doing both. He is a very competitive player. He trained for an awful long time in the Team 8 house. I've got to say, Major is one of the most impressive foreign players, and he's showing it today. He really is. As to whether or not there is a player on Mousesports that's kind of the caliber of Major, I would say Mana probably is up to that kind of scratch. Lucifron right now, maybe if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said Lucifron is the equal to Major, no problem. But right now, Lucifron he's suffering a few problems. I mean, a lot of foreign Terrans are right now. Major seems to be thriving. Got to say, I'm impressed with his play so far. So Major's scary. He's a very scary opponent. But he may be the scariest that Complexity has to offer. He may be the scariest. Complexity does not have a big, heavy Korean lineup. They're actually very much a North American-focused team. They do have a Korean player in the form of the STC, who actually lives in the Axiom house in South Korea. They do have other players they could rely on. Can Sasquatch beat him? Yeah, maybe. There's a possibility there. Could QXC beat him? Yes, maybe, on a good day. QXC is really great, especially with TBT. But Major is a difficult opponent to bring down. And I don't even think we need to be concerned about who's coming next, because Major may just win this outright. We'll see. But Mana's got a very big mountain to climb ahead of him at this point. Okay, so what is this? It's either going to be some kind of weird Widowmine thing, or it's going to be Hellions. Like, straight into early reactor Hellion. I wonder if he decides to go mech here. He might. It's unlikely to be Widowmines. There we go. It's going to be Hellions. Okay. It's not bad. This is a pretty good map to do it on, especially if you want to harass the natural, because walling this off with force field is very difficult to do. And, of course, there are no sign of any sentries coming out whatsoever yet. Mana has scouted. Mana has also seen the gas. And Mana knows about the factory coming down. So he expects something. Maybe he expects Banshees. But bear in mind, this is not going to be a big all-in here from the Terran player. The Terran player is expanding. He's going for it's a slightly earlier Reactor Hellion Expand. Yeah, Reactor Hellion Expand was really standard in Wings of Liberty. Very popular, especially against Zerg. But this is a bit earlier, because the gas came down first. And now it's going to be Widowmines following it up. So, this could be a little tricky to deal with. Well, there is actually a Mothership Core, I was going to say. Marine comes in and actually sees the Mothership Core making its way into the main base, which is actually going to take out both Marines. Is going to be able to go at the probe line, because it's only producing one Marine at a time. This is kind of going to suck for him. The Hellions do make their way in, though. Not that much damage done as of yet. 3 probes killed. Let's see if he can get any more. 4 probes. Great control so far here. This Stalker's doing nothing right now. And he's wasting a lot of mining time, too, here as well. One of these Hellions finally taken down. Maybe he gets one more probe out of this, or maybe he just tries to escape. Wow, Mothership Core recalls. He was actually so scared of taking more damage than that. I gotta say, 5 probes for a Hellion, not too bad. The Mothership Core kills a couple of Marines in the main base, but that's really about it. And now Major actually is changing around again. He's playing a little bit of musical chairs here. He's going for a double expand and going into a factory with a tech lab here. Might see a bit of tank play coming out here from him. Now Widowmine's moving in, and there is an Observer coming out. As I said, against Mana, Widowmine's maybe not the best choice, because he's very good at dealing with them, but it can still be difficult, even with an Observer. One Widowmine goes down. A second Widowmine is making its way into the base. There's only one Observer. It's got to choose where it wants to go here. But I think he's going to lose that one. He's not going to lose the one that goes into the mineral line, though. That's for sure. He might even be able to borrow the second. And the detonation. Oh! Oh! Oh no, Mana! That was nasty. 14 workers killed total now. That was... Oh. Even as a Terran player, that makes me wince. He's not going to get away with that, surely. Actually, he might. Yeah, he's going to get away with it. Trading that for a Widow Mine, that was a devastating mine hit. Very, very good play there by... I think, I wouldn't necessarily call it a good play by Major. It was pretty good because he kind of played around with his opponent. He borrowed one here to force the Observer to stay, which allowed the second one to get a bit further ahead than it should have been able to. Then he unborrowed, and then he pushed forward, and it's like, who do I shoot? Who do I shoot? I'm on a timer here, and Mana wasn't able to deal with it, but then Mana pulled his probes, but he pulled them in a bad direction. You've got to really split your probes against mines, and he pulled them all in this direction right here, as I'm showing with the mouse, which resulted in the mine firing in that direction as well and killing a bunch, so... Mana takes a significant hit. The economic lead now for Major is staggering. He has 3 bases up, and he's going to be able to triple Mule here, and he's got tanks and Marines. Frankly, for Mana here, I think, like, when behind Go Dark Shrine in this position, like, he has lost so much already in this game. Major has done so much damage and gained such an economic lead. That lead is only going to grow. He has got to do something. What can he do? What can he do from this position? He doesn't really have anything tech-wise. He's making +1 armor, which is indicative that he wants to go pretty Zealot heavy. And he's got a Robo and a Gateway, and no. Surely not. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing 1 Gate Colossus. It's not something I think I've seen in a very, very long time. 1 gate into Colossus tech and an Immortal coming out. This is kind of a desperation play. This Immortal is definitely going to help against the tanks, don't get me wrong, but I think that Mana realizes he is very far behind in this game, and he's got to pull something out that's a little bit unusual, a little bit unexpected. Widow Mine drop comes in again, and he is able to... Oh, nicely done there. Very, very good control by Mana. This time splits very well against it. Doesn't even lose a probe. And that is going to be 1 dead medevac as well. That's pretty cool. Immortal is about to be out as well. These tanks are sieged in range of this. This is not a good fight here for Major. There you go. He moves back a little bit, but this is still a dangerous position. There is an Immortal out. That Immortal is going to take as many shots as he wants. He might even take out... No, he's not going to take 2 tanks, but he does take out 1. Medevac's now coming into position here as well, and Major's in a bit of trouble here. But he brings his tanks up, and he kills those Marines out. I think he's just going to get out for the time being. I don't think there's really a need for him to attack here. He's already very far ahead economically. Went ahead, get further ahead. He is 20 workers ahead of his opponent, plus mules. He could just ramp his economy to a devastating position and just overrun his opponent. And that's exactly what he should do in this position, I think. There is no need to attack and lose your units. None at all. Now we have the Robo out, which, I mean, are we gonna see that Colossus? We might. Is it still a single gateway? No, there's a second gateway coming out. And that's the crazy, crazy early Colossus there. Mana pushing out here is maybe not what I would have suspected he would have done. He leaves his base very vulnerable to a counterplay. There's only 1 cannon. A drop could do a lot of damage here. But I think Mana expects this. This is some really... If Mana intercepts this, he expects it. Look at it. He knows that this is coming. He is a smart cookie. And he's going to be able to shut this medevac drop down. Very nice. Very nicely done. He knew the risks of pushing out. And he said, you know what? This is the angle that he's going to come at. That is some star sense there by Mana, I gotta say. But he's going to need more than star sense to win this. He is in a really ugly spot. 2 bases versus 3. Major is now an economic powerhouse, and he is powering forward with upgrades aplenty. I think the only thing he's currently lacking is a large amount of barracks right now, but he's putting reactors on these, so he's about to be ready to pump out a lot of Marines. And we've got extended thermal lance on the way and 1 Colossus. Will it be enough? Maybe. If it catches Major off guard, which it will. Actually, it won't, because he may have clicked on that. If he did click on it, he knows what that is. It's obviously a little bit weird to see Colossus there, but still. The Colossus might save him. There are now Vikings coming on the field, but Major just has such a powerful army. 71 army supply to 38. It's going to take a really good engagement for Mana to even survive this, let alone actually trade well. Stim's now done. Combat shield is about to be done. +1 armor and +1 weapons are about to be done. This is a very powerful timing. And really the only thing that Mana currently has going for him is the fact that he has a Colossus. He's not even going to have 2 by the time that this hits, unless it waits. So this is dangerous. +1 is all done. Major, now the time is to engage, I feel. This is going to require some phenomenal play by Mana to live through. It looks like he's going to just head up to the third base and cancel it. So that gives Mana enough time to get a second Colossus out and extend the Thermal Lance. So I think he's okay trading that third, really. It's still a really bad spot. I mean, look at the army supplies. 95 to 48, 164 to 103 supply, and a supply block there for the Protoss player. I don't care how good your units are. I don't care how good your control is. This is a really, really difficult thing to deal with. And Major now realizes, oh, my opponent's got nothing else. He has nothing else. I need to just hit him. I need to hit him with everything I've got before he can get too many Colossus up. 6 Vikings now on the field. There's the Stim. Attempting to put down another base is just not going to do much at all. Major's going to go for it right now. He does. He can attack. He can destroy his opponent. Maybe he just waits for the max. But I don't necessarily like that because it allows his opponent to get more Colossus up. But even then, we're just talking hypotheticals here. Mana's army is tiny. It is tiny. There's no meat at the front. There are 7 Zealots, 2 Immortals, 2 Colossus, 5 Stalkers, and 2 Sentries versus 47 Marines, 16 Marauders, 2 Tanks, 8 Vikings, and 5 Medivacs. With +1/+1, even the upgrade lead. Even... Actually, never mind. It's the same upgrades, but it's an upgrade stalemate. Major's going to go for it. And rightfully so, I think. Mana is going to have to pull some phenomenal play out. He has no Storm available. Down goes that Photon Overcharge. Is it going to make any difference at all? Nexus taking heavy fire right now. An excellent concave here for the Terran player. There's no Storm available. Feedback's available here as well. The Terran player is acquitting himself pretty well. I mean, so is the Protoss, but there's no way. Mana is not going to live through this in a million years without Storm. The base goes down. GG and Major with the 4 kill. Impressive. Very impressive. Well, it was worth taking him on as Joker, wasn't it? 5-1 there for Juanito. Exceptional play, and nothing on Mousesports able to stop him. Major on fire with an excellent set of games against all races and all styles. What can I say? Complexity takes the win, 5 games to 1. That's going to be fantastic for their indicator. Very, very good for it indeed. They were already pretty much suffering. They have not been all that high up the Acer Teamstory Cup so far. They have been very close to the bottom there with Invictus Gaming and Empire Ense. But that is a second win for them. And that actually sets their indicator to -1, I believe, instead of -5. That would put them ahead of Mousesports, because Mousesports just lost that. I think that puts them equal with Millennium. So they've actually climbed up to 6th place now from that win. And Mousesports, who was very, very good, I've got to say, at dealing with Acer Teamstory Cup in Season 1, is going to fall to 8th place from that loss. That's pretty bad. So there you go, folks. A major win for Complexity. If you missed any of the games today, they will be put up on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to watch the entire series. I'd like to thank everyone for supporting, especially the new subscribers for today. You have been a fantastic audience. I'll let you know if there's going to be any more casts this week, but I am going to be moving house this week, so I'm kind of done, I think, for streaming for the week until I get into my new place. But do remember to watch the rest of the Acer Teamstory Cup matches. And if you want more Starcraft, it's on right now. You're spoiled for choice. You are spoiled for choice. You got ESET Masters going on right now. You have got the Home Story Cup EU qualifiers going on right now. And you also have the EU Challenger League group. So that's Group H going on, which is currently between Night End and Amaga, which is a game that has just started. They're currently 1 apiece, so I would suggest you go and check that out. Thanks a lot for watching, folks, and thank you to the sponsors of Acer Teamstory Cup, which, as you might imagine, would, of course, be Acer and Intel, as well as Roccat. I'll see you next time.